about red flags in dating.
Yeah.
What are some red flags that you think are necessary for women to just keep their eye out for when they're dating?
Yeah, I think number one, any man that tries to make you feel small so that he can feel big is a dub. I think a lot of men feel, bigger when women feel smaller about themselves because they feel like they have someone they can control. They feel like someone needs them. I think a lot of men, because of what society puts on them, they need to feel needed. And so that's why there's all this discourse about, oh, women are too independent now and women are, why? Because now they don't feel needed, but they are needed, for different things. And I think it's the search for needing to be needed that is a red flag for me, because they will always shrink you so that they can feel big in whatever way it is, in microaggressions and telling you, oh, what you have on is too this, oh, you talk too much, or you're too needy, you're too this, you're too that. Men like that are a red flag because they'll never allow you to exist. They'll never allow you to excel because they feel like somehow that dampens their success or who they are. So that would be a number one red flag for me. I think.
So you're talking about being controlling, it almost sounds like.
Yeah. I think a lot of men are slickly controlling, right? Okay. So they're not going to tell you can't go out, you can't do this. Some men will, but some men are a little bit slicker. They're not going to tell you can't do things, but they'll make you feel bad about the things that you're doing. And so in a way, you are controlling because you know that woman is going to do whatever to please you. And so if something seems displeasing, she's not going to do it. And so I think you have to look out for men that belittle you or shrink you in any way, because that is their way of controlling you so that they can feel big and powerful.
Right, because you definitely do want to allow him to feel needed, but it's almost like you need to, number one, look out for what you said, and then also maybe choose men who enjoy doing the things that you actually do feel like you need.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So it meshes, it flows.
Yeah. I think that's an issue a lot of women make too. I think even in like love languages, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's this narrative that like the right person is just going to know how to love you and da-da-da-da. I never went for that. I don't think that that's true. I think that's a toxic mindset. I think the right person will learn how to love you, right? And will enjoy learning how to love you. And so I think with love languages, I think when women understand that what their love language is, they're able to assert it and their partner can either match it or go. I think you have to know when it's just not going to work. So maybe one person, your love language is physical touch, and another person's is acts of service, and they hate physical touch for whatever it is. You have to know that that's what you need for your cup to be filled, and you have to go find the person that can fill it. I think women, like, we try to pick one, like, okay, well, maybe I should just appreciate all these acts of service. No, you want your physical touch, so go get it. You know, that's just, it's understanding our needs and asserting it and knowing that we deserve it. I think that sacrifice mindset for women is just, we just can't get rid of it. It's awful.
And knowing that they're not going to just randomly change, because I think a lot of times people are waiting it out and thinking, oh, maybe after we're together for a year, maybe once we're engaged or once we're married. But that's not the case. It will never change. And unless, number one, they're willing and able to do it, or, you know, it just comes more naturally to them. So you're right. Are there any other red flags that are super important?
I mean, we have like our obvious ones. Like, I feel like guys that, you know, immediately are jumping to sexual things, right? I think that's a red flag because that gives me like a conquer mindset in men that we see often, where it's not that they're interested in you and they, you know, want to value you or whatever. They want to conquer you because you are something on their list. You're a challenge to them. And conquering you would make them feel bigger. And so, once again, that's their way of making you feel small, because they don't look at sex as a mutual exchange. They're looking at it as, I win, like you lose. You gave it up to me. I still hit though. Like that narrative, right? And so I think men that are constantly talking about your outer appearance, constantly talking about sexual things, or, oh, if you say you get in the shower, oh, why I'm not in there with you, or, you know what I mean? It's the micro, they're trying to see how much they can get away with.
Yes.
And so that's a no-no. We don't do anything that's like overly sexual for that reason. And I just think men in general, that you can tell when a man is insecure. And I think,
how can you tell? Because not everyone can tell.
Right. I think personally, men that are, I think they just are overcompensators, right? So the men that need to fill their voids in whatever they possibly can. So that could be being the loudest in the room all the time. That can be being the one with all the girls with him every time he steps out. That can be the one with all the bottles, the biggest section in the club, the biggest are typically the men that feel the smallest on the inside because they need to do the biggest on the outside so you can't see it, right? Or men that are aggressive in their tone to women, I think is another flag of like, okay, you're clearly insecure because you're choosing. It's like the big guy picking on the little guy, like, you know, to bully on. So it's like, okay, well, I can pick on this woman because she's probably, you know, wanting my love, or, you know, she's not a man. Would you talk to a man the way that you talk to women? Men like that, I think, are very, very insecure on the inside because they pick and choose wisely, and they are constantly overcompensating for the things that they feel voided of on the inside. So I think you just gotta watch how a man moves. You gotta watch, you know, you gotta watch what he does and why, I think, is your biggest.
I love that. I've had friends in the past where they've been dating someone that we could clearly see was going to be a problem eventually.
Right.
And I remember, you know, because when I have a friend who I love and I see something like this, I'm so passionate sometimes about telling them something I see that it can sometimes come off a little bit jarring. Like they're like, okay, like I don't see this and I don't appreciate you saying these things.
Right.
So I remember backing off and apologizing. And then, you know, maybe 2 years down the road, this person did something that was just devastating to her, which I already saw coming.
Of course.
And when it happened to her, I reminded her and she's like, I never saw that. I didn't see it. And it's like, you didn't want to see it. Because it's very obvious, but you were so consumed by this person. And you need to be able to listen to people who love you, who are not competing with you, who don't want your man,
right,
who are just trying to help you, right? And I think if they vetted them properly, they wouldn't come across these issues. So what are some ways that you think you can vet a man in dating?
I think you need to come up with a list. You need to decide what is your absolute yeses and your absolute nos. I think women don't have a good grip on that when we go into things because we're so sacrificial that we're willing to kind of shift some of those things. No, that's where we end up feeling miserable down the line. A lot of women are unfulfilled later in life because we didn't make that list and make sure that it made sense. So I think we have to make this the list of, okay, let's decide what we want from a man and what we don't want from a man. What do you need? What do you need? Ask yourself what you need and be honest with yourself. Do you need someone who can provide you words of affirmation? Do you need someone who is highly communicative, highly sensitive? Do you need that or do you want that? You have to make that decision. And I think we can decide, I might need these things, okay, as a human and as a woman and as a partner. I need someone who can communicate with me, who won't abandon me because it's too triggering, and who is highly aware of themselves, they're self-aware in their emotions and others, right? But I don't need someone who's 6 foot. I don't need someone who makes X, Y, and Z. I don't need someone who looks like this, but I do need these things in order for me to feel seen and heard in my relationship. And then when you go on dates with this person, if they're ghosting you, if they're not texting back, giving you no answer, oh, sorry, X, Y, and Z, whatever, if they're not communicating with you properly about, you know, when they do need time away, if they're not aware of themselves and how they speak to you and how they communicate their emotions, and if they're not aware of yours when they've upset you, if they're not compassionate towards that, that's easy to see on the first couple dates. It's evident. They're going to show you that. If they've upset you and you express that and they're like, oh, you tripping, blah, blah, blah. Okay, clearly this is not a highly sensitive person, and that's on your list of needs. He's out. You have to be able to say no. I think women are so afraid that this man that just came is going to be the last one, and if I don't keep him, I'm not going to have a husband. No. This one, if it's not this one, it's going to be the next one, and then the next one, and the next one.
But a lot of women, and what you said is true, but a lot of women don't know what they need, especially if they haven't had very much dating experience.
Yeah.
They may be on a date and this person's not asking them about themselves, and they may not even realize they haven't been asked because they think that, you know, I'd rather him talk anyway. I don't really want to talk. I'm kind of shy. Or they're just so used to not experiencing love even for themselves that they don't even know what it would look like.
Right.
So for people who have never had any dating experience, how do you think they can figure out what they need? Or do you think they just have to go through the dating experiences and just figure it out from there?
I think you can figure it out on your own. I think obviously going through dating experience is definitely helpful because I think it brings up a lot of that trauma. Even the relationship that I'm in now is the healthiest I've ever had. And because of that, it brings up so much of my trauma and it forces me to deal with it. So I think, relationships can bring a lot of that trauma up, or you can dig it up yourself. So when I was going through what I've gone through in my life and I thought I couldn't have children and things, I had to dig a lot of that up on my own. And so asking yourself, even if you don't have any dating history, what do I want in a partner when it does come? When I do start going on dates, what do I want? You can ask. You can ask yourself, if you close your eyes and you envision what your fairy tale life would be, what does it look like? Then the important step to do after that, though, is the why. I'm such a why person, but why? So maybe, I want my partner to just come give me affection every single day. And if he doesn't, then that's not a part of my fairy tale. Why though? Did you lack that in childhood? Is there a reason? Does it validate you to get affection from a man? Why? And I think asking yourself those why questions will let you know what you need and what you want. Because sometimes what we want is not what we need.
And not to be judgmental of yourself or allow other people to judge you in your whys. Because sure, maybe you didn't get enough affection, but someone might say, you don't need that, or that's not important, but it's important to you. And even if it's something that may seem superficial, if that's what you really want and need, that's what you want and need. And don't be ashamed of that. Embrace it, because there's someone out there who wants to do that for you, even if in society's terms, it could seem like it's superficial. Like, let's say, you want someone to kiss you 5 times a day, or you want someone who has a lot of money. A lot of people think that they can't want that, right? Because it's superficial. But there are men out there who that is their leading, like that's what they want to do. That's what they want to give. That's their way of expressing their love. And they want a woman who can appreciate that, right? And so you'll find someone who fits whatever it is that you need, regardless of what it is.
I think it's so important to know that, because although you can ask yourself those why questions and it could be like, okay, you know what, this is from childhood, either you can make the decision of like, this is something that I can work through and that I think that I really don't need. I think it's actually better for me to work through it. Or because of what I've gone through, I do need that. And that's okay. I think that self-advocacy and women knowing that it's okay to say, I want this and I need this and I deserve this and it exists.
Once a woman kind of figures out that she's met a man that she likes, what do you think are some common mistakes that women make in the dating talking phase?
I think doing what I've done in my life. I think a lot of women make the mistake of wanting it to work so bad that we overlook reasons why it's not going to work.
Okay.
And so, I've done that in my own life where you just want the fairy tale and you don't care who's Prince Charming, right? You just need it to be filled. So I think a lot of times in the talking and the dating stages, women are just trying to make it work so bad, trying to be appealing to this man, trying to find something to talk about, find the connection and force it instead of seeing if it actually falls together. So I think the mistake is in rushing. The mistake is in trying to fill the fairy tale without vetting your Prince Charming. I think even I saw this conversation recently on Twitter where people were talking about women rushing to have children, when you get to that certain age and your biological clock is ticking. But are we vetting the father, because you want it so bad, but you may be manifesting a worse situation for yourself for the next 18 plus years, And so I think we have to vet our partners better. And I think we cover our eyes to all the red flags that they show us in those talking stages. And we don't want to hear it. We don't want to see it. We don't ask friends' opinions because we don't want to hear that they don't like them. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to do a better job at looking at who we are looking at as partners, because we have to see if they're worthy of us. I think we want to be worthy so bad that we miss the fact that a lot of these men are not worthy of us or our time or our love or any of it. And so I think we have to do a better job at knowing that we are enough and finding the man that is enough for us.